All right, welcome everybody to another Infinity League podcast. Ryan wanted us to kind of do a little bit of team overview. I'm Bruce. I'm here with Tim.
What's up?
We're going to be taking turns going like team by team, starting from the best teams to the worst team based on last year's end of year rankings. And without further ado, Tim, if you want to start with the champion.
All right, so I'm looking at Ken, and my first question is, how the hell did we let him get this damn good? Quarterback-wise, looking pretty good with Rodgers, Allen, and Ryan. Getting a little bit older, but I ain't gonna worry about it yet. Running back, he's set with he's got Kamara, Fournette, and Sanders, assuming he stays healthy. Wide receivers are incredible. Tyreek Hill, Debo. I hate Debo. Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams. Only weak spot, maybe be tight end, but Higbee's still pretty good. And when your whole team's that damn good, who really cares? Lacking a little bit in draft picks, but again, you're that good. I just sit back. Probably gonna end up winning a championship next year if we don't get somebody doesn't get better. Bruce, what do you think?
Yeah, I would pretty much agree with your assessment here. Got a good enough team to win it again next year and definitely contend. So we'll see what happens. The next team would be Teach Out. One thing I noticed was that I would consider him a contender to seller. He might have came in second, but I like his team, but I think there's some areas that might need some assistance. And if he doesn't, start off winning some games, I would probably advise maybe selling some pieces to try to prove himself for the following years. He's only got 3 picks in the draft. He doesn't have a first round pick. His starting quarterbacks are pretty good right now with Herbert and Hurts, but we'll see what happens with Hurts. Running back depth, or running back that's good. Besides the depth, he's got Nick Chubb and Jonathan Taylor. So obviously those 2 starting ones are great. He could probably do something with getting some depth, but he does have ETN coming back. I like his starting wide receivers. Really tight ends kind of pretty decent with Goddard. Yeah, I would say like for the most part, draft good and see what happens through the first like 7 weeks of the year. What about you? What do you think?
Kind of along the same lines. I like this team quite a bit, like you. But if I'm him, if the year starts off rough, I think I'd double down. He's got good draft capital in 23. I think I'd try and pick up where I'm weak at and go for it again.
Sounds good.
So then I'm up with Charlie, which I think he's competing. Doesn't have a first round pick this year, but I don't think he really needs it because, again, Stafford, Lamar, really good. Doesn't have a third quarterback, but I mean, you got Stafford, Lamar. Who needs it?
Right.
Running backs. I mean, he's got Najee Harris, Christian McCaffrey. If he can stay healthy, that's awesome 1-2 punch. Plus, he's got James Conner, who had a really surprising year. Receivers, good, not great. Especially Mike Evans. What's he going to be without Tom Brady? And then tight ends. I mean, Mark Andrews, he's a badass. Zach Ertz, he's getting up there. Don't know if the Cardinals are going to bring him back. So that's probably where I would spend my second round pick if there's a decent one there. Other than that, yeah, I'd keep on going. If he can, I could see him making a good run at the championship next year. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I like his team quite a bit. Maybe he doesn't have a first round pick, but maybe he can make some kind of move to improve wide receiver like you were talking about, or like the tight end position. But he's got Mark Andrews also, who right now is right up there with Kelsey as possibly.
I think he was number one this year, wasn't he?
I think he was, yeah. So we'll see. But I want to also say I saw that he looked like he had better games with the backup for Lamar Jackson than when he had Lamar Jackson in the lineup. But we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, Tyler Huntley was checking down to Andrews a lot.
Yeah. The next team would be Jimmy.
Surprise of the year.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't expected to be as good as he was, but then he kind of got he's kind of like in no man's land right this second because he's got like no QBs. He's in definite need of that. He's got Kirk Cousins. I don't know the situation with Sam Darnold. I don't really know the situation with Davis Mills. He might only have one starter possible. So he's definitely in need of QB. He does have a pick in the first round, so we'll see if maybe he does that.
Actually got 2 picks.
Has he got 2 picks?
6 and 9.
Okay, so he's got some chances at a QB. He needs some running back depth. Like he's got Elliott, he's got Jacobs. I like that. Carter could be something. Moss could be something. Drake could be something. Like all these people are going to be good if the other person goes out. His wide receivers are just kind of solid, kind of young too. So we'll see what happens there. This is another one of those teams where I think he just needs to decide soon if he's starting off good, maybe make some moves to improve even more. If he's losing, maybe make some moves to improve in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think he struck gold with Davis Mills. You know, probably not in real life going to be a good quarterback, fantasy wise. It was pretty surprising for him in a few games. Same thing, Dawson Knox. He absolutely struck gold with him. So I would definitely, one of those 2 first-round picks, grab a quarterback because you don't know if Darnold is going to start, don't know if Mills is going to start. And I'd say running back with the other pick. Because Zach Moss, it seemed like the Bills kind of soured on him at the end of the year, but that could change. They go back and forth. But yeah, he's in a good spot. He's got good draft capital. I just try to keep building and go forward.
Definitely.
So then I'm up with Zach, which Zach's pretty good. I think he might need to make a couple of moves because he definitely needs a quarterback. Russell Wilson still top of his game, I think, fantasy-wise at least. Tom Brady retired, obviously. And the only other he has is Geno Smith and Cam Newton. And let's hope they don't start anywhere this next year. But he does not have a first-round pick. His first pick is the 9th pick of the second round. He does have Kyle Trask, but if he starts, probably not going to be super awesome. So I'd maybe try and trade up into the first round to get a quarterback or trade for another one. But other than that, I mean, he's got Kelsey. He's pretty damn good. I heard Gronkowski talk about wanting to play for the Bengals.
I heard that too.
So if that happens, I think he's pretty good at tight end. Running back, he's solid. It's assuming Barkley can stay healthy, but he's also got Eckler. Cam Akers has looked good since he's come back, so I would assume he's going to get even better. Elijah Mitchell, he struck gold with that one. Needs some depth at wide receiver, I think, because Diggs is really good, but Lockett getting older, Beasley's getting pretty old, so he needs to address that if he can. He's also got Chark on the IR, I see, so he's in a pretty good spot. Like I said, I think he needs to make a move for a quarterback. What do you think?
Quarterback for sure. The wide receiver issue could be solved in the draft as well because based on the current mocks, I see there's going to be some decent receivers coming out, so he might have a chance at that.
Yep.
But yeah, he's in a good spot. I like his team. Just maybe needs to shore up a few things. The next person would be Dylan, and Dylan here. I noticed he doesn't have a first round pick. He has the 7th pick in each of the following rounds, so 2, 3, 4, 5. QB needed for sure. He's got Kyler Murray, but then he's got Daniel Jones, who knows what the Giants are going to do there. He's got Kyle Allen, Ian Book, Tyrod Taylor. I don't foresee any of them playing. We'll see.
Tyrod Taylor is good for 1 game a year before he breaks a rib.
Right, for sure. Or gets some BS with the medical
gets his
staff.
lung punctured.
Yeah. he is probably a contender now based on the rest of his team. He's got David Montgomery, Dalvin Cook, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin, George Kittle, Odell Beckham. So I mean, he's got some really good players. I think if he was able to get another QB and maybe another flex spot kind of guy, he'd be in a good spot. But yeah, I would suggest maybe even since he doesn't have a first round pick to maybe try and trade for one or something just to get a guy he knows is going to start. How about yourself? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the same thing. Like he needs to try and make a move for another quarterback. The Giants are saying right now they're going to go with Daniel Jones again, but of course they're going to say that right now. We'll see what happens, but otherwise, yeah, it really should be a competitor. He's got some good players on the bench even, so I like what he has. So yeah, trade for a quarterback or just hope that Jones starts, stays healthy, and wait for next year because next year's definitely get a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So next up is Jake. So I think Jake might be the most interesting team on the list because I think he's still pretty good, but his team's getting older and he does not have really any draft capital the next 2 years. He does not have any picks until the 4th round in this draft or the next draft. So I would keep what he has right now, try and find a good wide receiver on the waiver wire if he can. But if the year starts off, like you said, the week 7 is kind of the benchmark. If things are going south, I try and trade off what I have, get some draft capital, and start a rebuild. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree. That week 7 spot. I mean, he does have a couple wide receivers who are decent in IR right now, Adam Thielen and Calvin Ridley, which I'm not sure the status on Ridley. But yeah, I mean, if he was to make a move now to try to win, see how it goes the first couple weeks, and then if it doesn't, he's got quite a bit of stuff that he could sell off to people who are winning.
And one piece I'm really curious to see is with McDaniels going to the Raiders, what happens with Derek Carr? Because you saw what he did with Mac Jones, and Derek Carr been in the NFL a long time, got some good weapons there, but you have Renfro, and you see what the Patriots have always done with slot receivers, especially white ones. So could he be a sneaky, top 10 quarterback next year? I wouldn't be shocked.
I would not. I feel like he's always like right below that,
Yeah, he's always 13, 14, 17, 20 in that area. So if he goes off and Jake decides he wants to sell, that might be the first piece I look to get some good value out of.
Yeah, because he probably didn't invest a lot in Carr, and he could probably get a lot in return.
Yeah, same thing with Cooper Kupp. I mean, Cooper Kupp will be 29 next year. So if he's having a productive year, sell him while his stock is up, because it'll start to drop pretty quick.
Yeah, if Jake himself's not winning, that would be a good person to sell for sure. Yeah, I agree on that. I like Jake's team for sure.
I do, but injuries could kill him.
Yeah, which I think that's kind of what happened to him this past year.
Yep.
So the next team would be Daniel, and kind of like a bit of a repeat, I feel like here, but another person that probably needs to invest in some quarterbacks somehow. He does have Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Jordan Love. I don't know the long term on any of those guys. Is Love going to start? Is Rodgers coming back? Is Goff going to get replaced this year at the draft? Is he going to only have one more year left? I don't know. Now he does have the 5th, 8th, and the 11th pick in this coming draft. Mm-hmm. So he can, take care of that position, hopefully in the draft. We'll see where, players get picked in the real NFL draft. His running backs, are injured. So, he's got Robinson. We'll see what happens with Etienne coming back. I don't know. He might get replaced overall. He also had, who else was it? Mostert, Carson, Gus Edwards. I mean, all these guys, all in IR right now. Who knows what their snare is going to be next year? this is another one of those teams where he's gonna need to make some decisions, I think. Is he gonna continue with the rebuild, which I think is where he's more closer to doing than contending, but we'll see what happens in the draft with those first round picks. He could even package picks if he wanted to for like running backs or move up in the draft or quarterbacks that are already in the league. If someone was to trade, like if you trade like a pick and Jordan Love for somebody, we do it now before they decided the Rodgers stuff, might get more than he would if Rodgers returned. So it's just one of those teams where it's just glad to see what happens.
Yeah, I think there's a more than likely chance that Jordan Love is starting somewhere next year. Because I think if Rodgers comes back, I think they're going to move him. I would assume there's enough teams that need quarterbacks. He ends up starting somewhere.
It's true.
Pretty sure Goff's going to start next year. Even if the Lions do draft a quarterback, they're going to probably, I would assume, do with the later pick. Probably not starting right away. The Colts say they want to move on from Wentz. It doesn't sound like that's realistic for him. So I think he's got 3 starters next year, most likely. If I'm him, you got 3 picks in the first round. I'm not moving any of them. I'm just going to sit there. I'm going to probably take a quarterback with 1, just assuming Love or Wentz doesn't end up starting somewhere, just in case. Put him on the taxi squad. The other 2, I'm probably going to take a running back, maybe 2 running backs or running back and wide receiver.
The thing about their quarterback with Wentz, didn't they end up having to lose a first round pick to get him now?
Yeah.
So it might push their hand a little bit more to.
Yeah, and you had Irsay come out and say that, well, they're not 100% committed. They might look into, but his contract not great to move, from what I understand. Like you said, how they going to get one?
Yeah.
Unless you're going to draft a second rounder and start him. I doubt that's going to happen, because most of the season he didn't play awful.
No.
He didn't play great, but he didn't play awful. And they're a team that, besides the Titans, a pretty shitty division. So 7 teams getting the playoffs, they could make it.
They were only 1 win away from the playoffs. They couldn't beat.
All they had to do was beat the Jags.
Yeah, terrible.
Unbelievable, actually. But,
yeah.
So yeah, I think he's in a pretty good spot, actually. So next up is Ryan, the commissioner, which he's rebuilding, but I think he's pretty close. He's got Dak. I mean, Dak's solid fantasy quarterback. He needs Lawrence or Wilson to step up. I'm very confident Lawrence will be a whole lot better next year. I would imagine Wilson has to be better next year. Running backs, I think Javonte Williams could end up being the number 1 running back next year. I would be surprised if he's not top 5.
He was very good on a per touch basis.
And I don't think Gordon's coming back.
That's awesome.
So DeAndre Swift, I'm not as high on him as most people, but if you have DeAndre Swift as your number 2 running back, you're in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
He's got Justin Jefferson, probably the number 1 wide receiver to have in fantasy, or at least in Dynasty League.
Yeah.
Moore, solid rookie year. You expect him to get better. Juju didn't have a good year, obviously, because he was hurt. He might be on a new team, so I think he's got the talent. Let's see where he ends up.
Well, he was almost on the Chiefs last year. That'd be a really good spot for him.
I disagree. Number 2 receivers don't seem to do all that great there.
That's true. That's true.
Allen Robinson, he'll probably be on a new team next year, but he's still got the talent. I think he should be better. I think Ryan could end up with 5 starting NFL tight ends. Freiermuth's definitely going to start. Logan Thomas might be starting. Between Conklin and Irv Smith, he's going to have the starter for the Vikings. Harrison Bryant, I mean, it's a moving target with the Browns, but he could be the starter. And you got Jordan for the Texans. So he's definitely good at tight end. So, I mean, he's got the 4th pick, and then he doesn't pick again until the 3rd round. If I'm him, I think I want another running back. Because after the 2 that I mentioned before, you've got Latavius Murray, might not be playing next year. P. Ryan of the Bengals, I hope he's not playing for the Bengals next year. And Craig Reynolds for the Lions, might not even on the team. If he's on the team, he's probably buried. So definitely needs to add there. So I might look to trade back. I might just take the best running back. If a receiver he likes is there, I might take a receiver.
Yeah, again, I pretty much agree with you. Quarterback should be all set. Running backs, the top two are good. I definitely agree that maybe that's what he should make as a point of emphasis in the draft. Having the what was it? You said the fourth pick.
Fourth
He,
pick.
he could probably have the best running back maybe that comes out, whoever that might be. And yeah, good receivers, young receivers. Like you said, the tight ends, real good. So definitely building. Not 100% great, but like depending on how this draft goes, he could be right there with the guys in the playoffs. I mean, I could see that happen.
I would expect him to be in the playoffs next year, I think.
Like yeah, I agree. If not, he'd be contending there at the end of the year.
If it would, I think it'd have to take a couple of substantial injuries for him to not make the playoffs.
For sure. So the next team would be your team.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. So yeah, 6 picks in this draft. You got 107 as your first round pick. Your quarterbacks, your tight ends, your wide receivers, they're all pretty good and pretty young. So that's a good thing. You got Burrow, Mayfield. You got Deshaun Watson, as long as he actually gets to play in the NFL. So that's pretty damn good. You got Singletary, who seemed to be the guy down the stretch for Buffalo. You got like some guys like who are one injury away from being your second running back, so which sometimes is a good thing. Running backs get injured all the time. You know, Ronald Jones, Tony Pollard, Chuba Hubbard, people like that. Wide receivers, you got Devontae Smith, Hunter Renfrow, Darnell Mooney, all those guys, young, good. Noah Fant, Kyle Pitts at tight end. That's solid, real solid. Kyle Pitts probably gonna be a top 5 tight end easily for the next 5 years.
I really hope so because I passed on Jamar Chase. So
Yeah. Oh man, crazy to look back on now.
yeah.
You got St. Brown, who was straight killing it down the stretch with the Lions. Hopefully that continues next year. So I would think that you could definitely use a running back in the draft. I mean, with the 107, you might not get the first guy, you might get maybe the second or third guy, depending. But we'll see how the draft, goes. And your team isn't really as bad as it might seem based on how things went last year. I think really you're only a year or two away from being a contender. Like I said, the picks this year, and then hopefully you got some good choices next year in that 2023 class. How do you feel about your team?
I feel better about him now than I did at the midway point, that's for sure. I'm really curious to see what happens with Singletary because the Bills seem to go back and forth on the running backs a lot. But down the stretch, he sure had the hot hand. And it seemed like they really went away from Moss. So it'd really help if he's the guy going forward that he was at the end of the year. Other than that, yeah, I think I'm in a spot where I'm probably just going to take best guy on the board. But also, my pick is definitely for sale. So anybody want to move up, I'm willing to listen. I don't come cheap, but it can be moved.
Very interesting information.
So next up, I have your team, which I kind of refer to your team as like the junkyard that has a really shiny Corvette out front because you're definitely set at quarterback.
Definitely.
I kind of like the trade that you made to get Justin Fields because, I mean, you got Justin Fields, Mac Jones. You also have Trey Lance. As I'm trying to pull your team up, and I can't even find you on here.
For me,
There you are. Okay. But other than quarterback, yeah, not looking good. However, you seem to have every other pick in the entire draft with 4 first rounders, 4 second rounders, 2 third rounders. So my first thought is you're still a ways away. I'd maybe try to convey some of them picks into 23 picks. I think that's gonna be a better draft. But I mean, you also have a couple of guys I really like. I think AJ Dillon's gonna be a lot better next year. Obviously, Hot coming back, he should be, I would think, a top 5 tight end, no problem. Kadarius Toney. I mean, new coach. Hopefully, they get their act together there because that seemed to be a disaster. I still like DeAndre Hopkins. If I was you, I'd be trying to move him for what you can get. And yeah, I mean, the draft, I'd be looking at, you got the second and third pick. I'd probably try to get one running back, one wide receiver. You got the 10 and 12. I'd probably take the best guy on the board that's not a quarterback and start building it up because you're a few years away. Just acquire talent.
Yeah, definitely. I think how I said you're maybe a year or two away. I would say I'm like 2 or 3 years away. But yeah, if I make the right picks here at the draft, I like you said, maybe possibly make some trades with these picks, which same thing like you said, I am definitely open to. People might have noticed I do like to trade.
No, I didn't notice.
No notice. But one thing I do like is I think I have a decent amount of like first and second year. How should I say this? Well, they'd be going into their second and third year for receivers.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of times that seems to be when they really start to hit. If they didn't hit right away, if they weren't like an AJ Brown, a Chase this year, or those kind of guys who right off the gate. But most of the times the receivers will be good their second, third years going in. So, I got Marshall, I got Tony, I got Rogers, I got
Rondell Moore is
Rondell Moore.
the interesting one for me because I didn't watch a lot of Cardinals games. Who wants to? But the ones I watched, it didn't seem like they had many plays designed to get him the ball. And he's a guy you have to design a play to get the ball in his hands and then let him do his thing. So hopefully going to second year, I mean, he's a guy that, he smash, make you 1 or 2 good plays. There's your week of points right there.
Definitely. One thing I saw with him that needs to be brought up probably is both AJ Brown and Christian Kirk are going to be unrestricted free agents. So
AJ Green, you mean?
Oh, my bad, AJ Green. So that's AJ Brown.
You did say AJ
That's
Brown. It wouldn't be fair if they had AJ Brown and DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, that would not be good. So both those guys might be on different teams, so he might be the number 2 receiver.
Well, let's all hope that AJ Green is doing something besides playing football next year.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely receiver or quarterback. I mean, like you said, I should be good there. I definitely just need to get better. Definitely running back. I basically have scrubs. So the last team who has the first pick in every round, plus also he's got the 12th pick in the second round, is Jet. So he's got all his picks. I would say, needs some quarterback depth. He does have Patrick Mahomes, awesome, best player in fantasy, supposedly we'll say. And his only other quarterback is Tua. I'm not sold. I feel like the Dolphins aren't sold. I don't know what's going to happen. So him having the first pick, I feel pretty confident. I would like to think he's going to take a quarterback. But who knows with Jet sometimes. I like his running backs. He's got Joe Mixon. He's got J.K. Dobbins on IR. We'll see how he does when he comes back. He's got T. Higgins, Denzel Mims, Chenault, Van Jefferson. He's got some young receivers there. Really, his whole team is kind of full of young players, really. I would say that depending on his picks that he gets or any moves he makes, he's probably a couple years away from really, really contending. But I mean, given maybe some injuries that might occur with some teams, he might do pretty good and could make the playoffs. I like Njoku's a possibility, that Albert O at tight end, backing up Fant. Sometimes he had scored more points than Fant. So I mean, he's got a nice solid team if things break his way.
Yeah, if I'm him, he took 2 in the second round of our initial draft. That was a pretty big bet I think he made. I'm going to stick with that. And so I'm going to try and trade that first pick because I need another quarterback, but I'm looking at my third quarterback. So I don't necessarily need the best one in this draft, I don't think. I'm gonna try and get some more picks out of it, get some more young guys on there. And if he hits on them, I think in a couple of years, he might be one of the best teams in this league. So, because other than that, I mean, he said lots of young guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Pittman looks like he could be awesome. I mean, T. Higgins, I think he's great. Van Jefferson, I mean, he was a solid player.
We'll see what happens this
Yeah.
coming year with Woods and Odell. He could be the
Do
number
you think
two.
all three are there?
Yeah, is it tough? You know, it's gonna be tough. We'll see.
So yeah, I would definitely try and trade that first pick. I want to move back middle of the first round, late of the first round.
Oh, like 107 or something.
I don't know about all that.
Oh, isn't that what you had? I think.
I was thinking maybe 109 somewhere in
109.
there. But yeah, I think he's pretty close. I think I could definitely see him making the playoffs next year. If, like you said, he's a couple injuries, but he's got a lot of good young players. So
Yeah, I remember Ryan in one of our podcasts saying that he thought that Jet was gonna end up winning their division somehow. It didn't exactly happen, but
yeah, it would have been nice for me because I have Dylan's pick, so I would have moved that up a little bit.
There you go.
Didn't happen.
yeah, things didn't break right for Jet last year. We'll see how things go this year. But that pretty much wraps up all the teams. You got anything you want to say about any of the, going over everything we just said?
So overall, who do you think right now would be the best team 2 years from now?
2 years from now. Interesting.
I'll go first. I think it will be Jet,
You think it'll be Jet?
as long as he doesn't get crazy and make some insane trade. If he just stays the course, gets a couple more players, yeah, I think he could be the best.
If Tua pans out, I could definitely see that. I'm gonna lean towards Ryan. Prescott, Lawrence, Wilson. He's got Swift and Williams. Jefferson, Moore, Schuster, if he goes somewhere. Robinson, like you said earlier, is pretty good still. He's got a lot of picks. So in 2023, he's got 2 firsts, 2 second, 3 seconds. And everybody's talking up that class. So if you're talking including that draft class, I think he'd probably be the best one at that point.
I don't know if I believe in Dak that much, but yeah, I could definitely see him being the best. I think after this year, I think Ken's team's going to start to age out. I think same thing with I think it was Zach's team. So it's going to be interesting. I think in about the reason I asked, I think in 2 years we're going to start looking at the good teams getting bad, the bad teams getting good. So
Yeah, it's gonna flip flop for
Yep.
sure. Yeah, all of us at the end right now are gonna be at the top here in a couple of years. But other than that, man, I got nothing else. If you got nothing else,
nope.
all right. You all take care. Watch the Super Bowl and have Stafford raise the Lombardi Trophy.
Go Bengals.